cause an excess in a single year of 10 million deaths. Now, clearly a big war could, and a pandemic, natural or created by bioterror. The natural pandemic, the last gigantic one, was 100 years ago. We are healthier today, but the speed of travel, and therefore the speed of global spread, that works against us. But in some ways, the bioterror thing scares me the most. All it takes is one small terrorism group. Those groups have used things like anthrax that are non-human to human transmissible, and as yet, thank goodness, they've never been able to build or get their hands on a nuclear weapon.
Are you nervous about your own life and
No.
what could happen?
This thing will get a lot of countries before it gets to the U.S., but even the U.S. has to think about its global health security. It's a government thing to decide, okay, this is a problem, how do you move resources around, how do you allocate the scarce supplies? When an epidemic hits, governments having been prepared in advance and going through simulations, that will help them make the decisions that are only in their hands.
China has lost over 21 million mobile users in the last 3 months. The sharp decline is unusual as Chinese use their phones for pretty much everything.
Cell phones are an indispensable part of life. Only in extreme circumstances would people stop using their cell phones.
Chinese use phones for everything from cashless payments for just about anything to paying rent and transport. But in January and February, 3 Chinese mobile carriers saw a sharp decline in users. Users increased during the same period in 2019, 2018, and 2017.
It can be said without a doubt that the over 21 million drop in user numbers is related to the CCP virus outbreak.
Tong says virus deaths might have contributed to the count. An insider working in China's telecom industry told him that the lost users all met a specific criteria. The accounts they used required no minimum spending and had zero spending activity for the past month. According to the insider, accounts that require no minimum spending make up about 5% of China's total mobile users. Owners of these accounts tend to be in low-income groups in China's Midwest area. Many are migrant workers and college students. China has over 280 million migrant workers and 28 million college students. Assuming that about 5% of them have such accounts and stopped using their cell phones, that's about 15 million. There's still a 6 million gap that can't be explained.
I speculate hundreds of thousands or perhaps a million Chinese people have died from the CCP virus. Of course, there will be no account activities after the death, which contributed to the sharp drop in numbers.
Days after the data was released, China's top anti-corruption organ announced changes for the 3 major Chinese carriers. Authorities said the service options were too complex and needed to be refined. But Tong says the data reflects to a certain extent the casualties and economic impact brought by the virus. He said it's likely the Chinese authorities are using the new changes as a cover. Reporting by Juliet Song, NTD News, New York.
What was going on in Wuhan? For 2 weeks, the prominent lawyer and citizen journalist posted videos from the virus epicenter, revealing the true scale of a tragedy he said was unfolding before his eyes. Then he disappeared. His mother has been told he's in quarantine, but issued this appeal, knowing the authorities have silenced her son. 4 days later, Feng Bin went missing. His footage showing several bodies outside a Wuhan hospital and a man dying inside brought him to the attention of the police. The local shop worker hasn't been seen since February the 10th. They are just 2 of dozens detained and millions suppressed online for daring to criticize the government's response to the virus.
Not just dissidents or prominent activists, but now even just ordinary citizens. That we also heard stories about them being detained or being punished, either short, very brief detention or being warned by the police after they posted something on social media.
President Xi has been largely absent from the public eye, but has declared the country united in a people's war. He is said to have personally ordered the strict health checks and containment orders now in force across the country.
For brother light, there is still right. There is still right, from this motor, see. For brother light, there is still right. There is still right, from this motor, see.
What you're seeing here isn't even the ICU. That's already full. This is the emergency room, flooded with new arrivals, all gasping for breath. Doctors cover patients' heads with the precious few plastic ventilators they have. But make no mistake, this is one of Europe's most advanced hospitals, and it's on its knees. Just outside its doors, and the Italian military moves in under the cover of darkness. Their first job, to find a place to bury the dead after Bergama's cemetery near Milan was overwhelmed.
Here in the UK, we ask our politicians questions about the way they've reacted. And to a degree, it's inevitable that that thought process will be something that happens in the future that we look back on. I mean, can you sort of talk us through what you see from what's happened so far?
Well, a big missing piece is that, funding the research for these type of vaccines, actually our foundation is the biggest funder of vaccines for infectious disease. There could have been more. CEPI is the one thing that did happen there. And, now the next phase.